Prosecuting these 4 young people as adults for this horrific crime, and all 4 of them are now charged with second-degree murder. We're all familiar with the facts, the horrible facts of this case. In fact, it's very tough to get them out of your mind. Earlier this month, I met with the family of Mrs. Frickey. I was on the phone with them just a little while ago today. And her family and so many of her friends have reached out and have told me that Mrs. Frickey would have given the shirt off her back and would have gladly given those young people that car had they asked for it. Every single person to a fault has had nothing but glowing things to say about this phenomenal senior who was still actively working in our community and not scared to go in any neighborhood. Leaving your place of work, going in your car should never end in you losing your life, but that is exactly what happened to Mrs. Frickey. And no action of this office or any other agency can fill that hole in the hearts of these family members. But what we can do is assure and ensure justice and accountability for Mrs. Frickey's horrible murder. I want to take this moment and thank ADA Abigail McDonald, who has been the lead prosecutor on this case so far. I also want to thank Melissa Robles for her work with the victim's family throughout this horrible ordeal. And I want to say a special thanks to NOP Detective Rael Johnson for his continued hard work in this case, because it's going to take that continued hard work as we move forward. These 4 have been charged as adults because, simply put, the juvenile court system is not designed for this. 4 or 5 years for these criminal actions is just not enough. Now, I know that there are some in this community who will absolutely say that I am wrong for charging these 4 young people as adults. Well, I say it was wrong of them to prey on and kill one of our elders. It was wrong to punch and kick a 73-year-old woman. It was wrong to steal her car. It was wrong to pull off with her attached to it. It was wrong to drag her down that street screaming. It was wrong to ignore her cries for mercy, which are embedded in the neighbors' minds and hearts and ears who are out there at that crime scene. It was wrong to take her life. It is equally wrong to ignore the absurd state of affairs that we're living in now in the city of New Orleans. It is wrong that this city is collectively, utterly failing our children and consequently failing every citizen and every visitor to this city. This crime happened at 1 p.m. in broad daylight on a school day. Children should be in school. These 4 should have been in school. Now, I've talked to some school leaders, I've talked to some educators, teachers, and students. And it appears that in some schools, close to 30 to 50% of students are not back in the classroom since the COVID shutdown. And there is no outcry about that. There's been no real discussion about that. Truancy is rampant. It is unaddressed and it is unchecked, and if nothing is done, I fear that we will be here in this horrible place again. We are in an unparalleled amount of violence in this country and in this city, and we have to bring order and safety. That is and has to be the ultimate goal. So in addition to today's actions, I am encouraging, I am begging, I am pleading with all parts of our community, all city leaders, to help us prevent these types of crimes from taking place. A few days ago, I met with our incoming school superintendent, Dr. Avis Williams, and we're working together and we're committed to partnering to enforce the existing truancy laws to help us ensure that parents are making sure their school-age kids are in school. Now, this is not in any way a dig on educators or teachers or principals. Our educators can only work with and teach the kids that are showing up in the classrooms. This is a group lift for everyone in this city. This is a call to use those federal dollars that have come from the Biden administration to set up truancy clinics, to help schools, to help the NOPD, to proactively deal with young people that are running around in the streets, not in school, during all parts of the day. A parent who fails to enroll and maintain their child in school can be fined and or jailed, placed on probation, required to participate in community service, parenting classes, and so much more. And all of that is about to be brought to bear. With the help of the new superintendent, we're going to put the pieces in place to make sure that we're dealing with all aspects of what led to this horrific event. Now, we don't want to add additional burdens to parents who are struggling to pay the bills. And so if they need help, then there's going to be resources there to help. But we must meet this moment. And we must do more to help our public schools and the NOPD and the courts to help enforce truancy laws so that our kids are in school and not out in our streets. The last thing I'm going to say before I take your questions, everyone needs to know this, adults and young people alike. There are some lines you don't cross in a civilized society. There are lines you cannot cross in a civilized society. Today's indictment is fair, and it ensures that these young people are held appropriately accountable.
Aubrey, a couple questions. Is it safe to say the campaign promise to not charge juveniles as adults is not realistic?
We've already charged juveniles as adults for murder. This is not a campaign. This is a solemn oath to keep the people of this community safe. We can keep talking about it, but we need to be very, very clear. This is about holding people accountable. And anybody that disagrees with my decision needs to go back and look at that video.
Anna?
I wanted to ask, have you talked to the parents of these 4 juveniles, and how have they reacted? Because I know some of them turned their kids in.
Yeah, you know, I have not. My focus has been on the victims and the victim's family, and that is where my job lands. Now, I have received mitigation packets and information from defense attorneys. I've looked at the backgrounds of these young people before moving forward with this indictment, but it simply was not enough not to charge them as adults. 4 to 5 years is just not enough. The parents are to be applauded, the ones that turn their kids in. But that does not change the fact that a horrific decision was made. Many horrific decisions were made to even get in that car with Ms. Frickey attached.
David, can you talk about your conversation with Ms. Frickey's family? What was their reaction like when you told them they tried as adults and they know things that they were doing?
Conversation went very well. You know, there's not going to be any good moments for this family. I just want to make sure that I was spending the appropriate amount of time with them, making them aware of all next steps before we did anything publicly. Every conversation is a very hard conversation. Every day moving forward for Mr. Rickey, Ms. Frickey's husband, is going to be hard.
Right. What were the second-degree charges possibly bring for these juveniles?
Well, the mandatory sentence for second-degree murder in this state is life.
Jillian?
Yeah, Jillian.
Aubrey? Sorry, two questions. Aubrey, can you elaborate? Today, the MCC, Metropolitan Crime Commission, released numbers saying from January to April 1 that there have been 426 violent felony cases accepted with 80 convictions. I know it takes time with a conviction, but can you tell us how many have been convicted today in response to anyone who might find those numbers concerning?
I can tell you that the district attorney's office was only allowed to start trying cases about 5 weeks ago. I went into court with my ADAs and tried the very first case, which was a murder case from Christmas Day 2020. I'll be in court Monday morning before Judge Pittman trying another murder case. We're going to work as hard as we are allowed to work. It's going to be fair, and we're going to secure convictions, and we're going to do it right.
Will any of the teens' parents face any charges?
Right now, I'm only announcing an indictment for second-degree murder for these 4 individuals.
Adam, you have any other questions? Are you still planning on pursuing life in this court?
This is the first step. Everything we do going forward is going to be a public record. It's probably not the last time we'll have a press conference about this case, but I'm not going to lay out everything that happens next in this case, because that has to happen in a court of law. You know, there's an initial thing that we all saw, which is the video, which is pretty horrific. We gave an opportunity for the defense lawyers to provide mitigation, the backgrounds of these young people. Several key trusted members of my team were able to read about the histories of these young people. We also looked at the before and after. And I think it's important to realize that this wasn't a gun going off. This wasn't a situation where there was a terrible mistake and the car went out of control. There was a decision to encircle and prey on a woman that was clearly an elder by all 4 individuals. And then there was kicking, and there was punching, and then there was all of the individuals got inside of the vehicle, which was the weapon in this case, and dragged her despite her cries for help. And not a single one did anything to disengage, walk away, or assist Mrs. Frickey just to save her life. That combined with what we were able to read in their background, which was not enough to keep it in juvenile court. 4 or 5 years, I'll say again, it's just simply not enough accountability for a crime this horrific. We cannot live like this.
We'll take 2 final questions, Michael and David. You mentioned the background of these juveniles. Do all 4 have an extensive history when it comes to crime? And can you go over today's ages of all 4? Or do you have
Well, I can tell you they're all school-age children, which needs to be the most alarming part of this, because had they been in school, this crime wouldn't have happened, and Ms. Frickey would be alive. Their records will come out during the course of this case. It was varying degrees, but at some point, when you look at how horrific this crime is, it doesn't matter what was in your background. If this was the first thing that someone had did, this thing is pretty blatantly horrific and atrocious, and that's why we move forward the way we did today.
And David, what message do you want today's events to send? I think I'll say it again. Everyone, adult and young person, needs to realize that there are some lines you don't cross.